Okay, so desired state, clarity. Okay, so we have to get specific. So it took me 3 questions to get to the specific of what you actually wanted. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because traveling the world, there's always a measure of it can be more. Having more happiness in your life, there's a measure of it. That you can always have more of that. But something specific like becoming a shareholder. But let me ask you this: what about if I sold you 1 share in the North Melbourne Football Club? Would that satisfy you? No. So it's about getting clear, very, very clear about where it is that we want to go. Now, 90% of everything that you don't have in your life is because of a lack of clarity. And guess what? 90% of everything that everybody else doesn't get that you're meant to be delivering is because they're not clear with you. Would that make sense?
Yes.
Does that describe the predicament that you guys find yourself in right now? Yep, okay, yes. Cool. So the very first thing is we must get clear about what our desired outcome is, okay? Boom. Step number 2, which usually goes neglected, is identifying exactly where you are right now, okay? Most people in life see their position depending on what filters they have, right? And how they absorb the universe around them. Most people either see where they are, their actual state, better than what it is, or worse than it is. Very few people see themselves exactly where they are. Mm-hmm. You know, so some people have got
They want to make it better for themselves.
Yeah. Some people are just optimistic. Yeah. And they want to look at themselves going, yeah, it's going pretty well. So, well, it's not really going well, is it? I mean, you just lost your license. Your girlfriend dumped you because you're a slob and you don't have a job. I mean, is that pretty well, or is that, are we kidding ourselves?
Average,
yeah. So that's on one side. But then on the other side, and everyone can relate to that. There's something in your life that you look at it because you're avoiding the truth. Mm-hmm. That in your heart of hearts, you know where you actually are. Yeah?
Yep.
And then on the other side, what about those other people? And you're like, so how you go, like traffic always happens to me. This is the happens to me people, right? It's like traffic was invented just to piss you off. You know what I mean? Or I always get a cold. I get sick so easily. Like sickness was invented just to piss you off.
Yeah.
Right? It's got nothing to do with the fact that you go out every weekend, get shit-faced and haven't eaten a vegetable, for 4.5 years. Got nothing to do with any of that, right? It's the fact that the world happens to. Does that make sense? You all know people like this, yes?
Yeah.
Cool. So when we're dealing with a problem, we have to identify exactly where we want to go. But in contrast, have to understand where we are right now. Mm-hmm. It's just like a map, okay? Knowing where you're going is not enough. You have to know where you're starting. And it's those 2 points of orientation which allow you to draw what we call a straight line, or the shortest distance between those 2 points. We're not talking about a straight line today, but you get the idea.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Once you've identified this, now these are things that, when I go into companies, at the moment, as you guys know, I'm working with a $1 billion technology company in the US, and they suffer the same problems that everybody else suffers, which is all these people go in at what I'm about to show is step 3 and 4. Everyone's about step 3 and 4 because that's where solutions people want to go. And leaders, especially sales leaders, tend to be solutions people. Okay? I've seen this before. I know how to deal with this. Leave it to me. But unfortunately, if you don't build enough value around what it is that you're trying to fix, then it just doesn't land the same way. So starting with where you want to get to, an absolute clarity, then identifying exactly where you are or where the current state of play is, what is the status quo today, will allow you to build value into step 3 and 4. Step 3 and 4 is very simple. Okay, so step number 3 is what we call the obstacle. Okay? Now, do you know people who are the best, just the best in the world at picking fucking problems? They look at what you're doing and they say, those shoes just doesn't work with that t-shirt. You know those people?
Yeah, I know those people.
Or the people that walk into a room and go, if the lights were a little bit dimmer than people would be. You know those people?
Yep.
They can see problems, and we got to love those people, right? They usually become CFOs, right? Because you really that's what you want in a financial control. You want people to be picking the things that aren't going well, especially when it comes to your money, right?
Yep.
That's a really good skill to have. But they're the people who can pick. They in NLP we call that they sort by difference. Okay? When they look at a situation, not that they're negative or anything, but that's how their brain operates. They see things and they sort by differences, the things that don't fit into their map of what should be. Okay? And what about the flip side? Have you ever seen people who don't identify the obstacle straight away, but always they're quick to let me fix it. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, why don't I? Yeah, and they'll constantly they'll give you advice. Oh man, you know, if you ate that but separated your proteins from your carbs, then you're going to digest that food better. It's like, are you a nutritionist? No, but I know stuff. You know those people that are an expert on everything because they look for solutions, right? So this is typically what you're faced with when you're dealing with people, especially in a leadership position. They go in with steps 3 and 4. Right? They either go in telling you what the obstacle is or telling you what the solution is. And they ignore steps 1 and 2, which I'm here to tell you is far more important. Or maybe not even more important, but as important as the rest in its chronological order.
Yep.
Right? It's kind of like when you see an ad on television and they say, you know, we've got a huge discount. You know, massive sale going on. They show you the original price slash to, you know, don't pay this, slash to this. Why don't they just tell you the price at the end?
It doesn't make it look as good.
Yeah, it doesn't look as good. Why not? Because we're conditioned to respond to contrast. Okay, it's the disturb that comes before the relief that allows us to see value, right? When somebody says, now, you know, it used to be $1,000. You go into a shop during stock take sales. Yeah, you see a jacket. Used to be $1,000, now it's $150. Now you may not have needed a jacket before, but all of a sudden you're like, $150, I just saved myself $750. I can't afford not to own it. 700, 850. Good work, maths. Right? So I'm actually saving myself $850 by buying this jacket. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the way our heads work. We look at contrast, right? We look at contrast. So by creating a position and framing it up of let's get clear about where we want to go, let's get clear about where we are, then let's talk about what the obstacles are. Now, step 4 in the solution, it actually goes in 2 parts. So if now you've clarified that this is where you want to get to and this is where you are, yes? And we've also identified that this is the obstacle, what are our options? This is the obstacle, this is where we want to go, this is where we are.
We have to deal with the obstacle.
Okay, cool. So how can we deal with the obstacle? There are 2 ways. Okay.
We have to understand what the obstacle is.
Okay, let's assume that we do. So let's say that you're driving a car.
Yep.
Okay, driving along, and you want to get to that side of the road, and you're on that side of the road, and you're here with your car, and in between you see a hurdle. You know, like an actual hurdle. People like running in the Olympics, hurdle, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So what do you do?
You drive around it.
Okay, cool. So the first option is you find the path around it. Yes? The other option?
Just drive straight through
it. You could drive straight through it, right? So you could drive straight through it, or maybe a way of maybe less friction, because that obstacle might be a person, or a personality, or an emotion.
It's true.
What's another way we could do it? So with the hurdles in front of us, we're in the car.
We could remove the obstacle.
Yeah, get out of the car and remove the obstacle, right? Get it? So there really are 2 options. Can we deal with the obstacle and remove the obstacle?
Yep.
Or do we find a way around? Now, I'm not here to tell you which one's better. There is no better, right? They're both equally fantastic. But if we don't approach it in this systematic way, well then we're not really sure what we're dealing with. Does that make sense?
Yep.
90% of it, not 90%, every single time you solve a problem, this is the map of getting there. Yet the clarity around what the map is makes it really difficult. When people don't have that clarity, it makes it really difficult to follow the process, and more often than not don't get what they want. Now, is this a question of authority? Is it a question of role? Because right now we're talking about influencing people, influencing people who have their own desired outcome, who have their own actual state, who have their own series of obstacles, and are looking for a series of solutions, right? Is this exclusive to somebody who's got a job title?
No.
So if I've got authority, like, will this only work? Let's say I'm trying to get you to do something here. Will this only work if I've got a title that's higher than yours and say, you have to do it my way?
No.
No, of course not. This is exactly the process that anyone has to go through. So what I'm here to tell you right now is that this process here is what you need to be influencing somebody, how you're going to shift someone, create difference and impact in someone's life, take them from where they are right now to where they want to be, regardless of the title that you carry with you.
Yep.
Okay? Because that's the problem that you're facing right now, isn't it?
Yep.
You've got to get things done from people, and you've got to manage upward, You've got to manage people with a higher title than you. You've got to manage sideways. You've got to manage other people who have got no reason to listen to you. And of course, you've got to manage your own teams. And of course, you've got to manage your customers. And guess what? Everything fits in the same pattern. Does that all make sense? So this is where I need you to start, okay? Desired state, actual state, what's the obstacle, what's the solution? Yeah?